Hello everyone, this is Edwin Epperson, your host of The Sophisticated Investor. The Sophisticated Investor is an incredible community which is focused on education, training, and collaboration to help each of our members, and that includes you, to build, protect, and preserve your family's generational wealth. Now, I believe that we truly have a unique and one-of-a-kind educational community. For one, I believe that there are 4 primary markets, not just one. I believe that those 4 primary markets include your personal finance and mindset market. I believe the second market is your hard, tangible asset market. I believe that the third market is your stock and paper market. And I believe the fourth market is your business investing market. Now, those 4 markets are imperative to be able to understand and then call yourself a sophisticated investor. Today, we have an incredible guest who is going to educate us on their preferred market of investing as well as the assets that they like to invest in. Please join me as we welcome today's guest. And today we have Jim Willis with us from the Willis Agency. Jim, thank you for joining us on the Sophisticated Investor.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, Jim, we're going to dive into what you do. We're going to dive into your background, and we're also going to mention that you've actually an author. You have written a book, right?
Yes, I am a now those classified published author.
So we'll dive into the book as well, and we'll get a little bit of your background and where you've come from, what you're doing now, and why investors should be looking at what you're providing as a way to diversify their investments, to potentially hedge their investments against market fluctuation, and obviously providing them an additional investment source and method. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Where do you live? How long have you lived here? And let's just dive into that aspect.
Well, we live in Land O'Lakes, Pasco County.
Okay.
I was born and raised in St. Pete. I'm a 3rd generation native, so I've been around a while.
And that's St. Pete, Florida.
Yes.
Okay.
Not Russia. But we're from the South, and we've enjoyed it very much. So.
Okay. And you grew up here in St. Pete. Here in the greater Tampa Bay area, if you will. And so you were out in St. Pete near the water, and now you live up in Land O'Lakes, Pasco County. You are an author, in the book that you wrote, which I've read, and is a really good book, by the way, actually walks someone through your background, your story of where you were at and then where you're at now. And there's a catalyst moment in the book where your life starts to dramatically shift. What was that in the book? It was early in the book.
Well,
I think it involved a tree.
Yeah. Well, going back to where I live, though, my grandfather had a 40-acre ranch in the city limits of St. Pete.
Okay.
And it was on the Bogasega Bay. So long before there was technology, it was just shortly after we became a state and developed air conditioning. I was around, and I got to live the story life of Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer, Davy Crockett, Tarzan. And if I went out to the left of my driveway, we were in the water, and we did every animal story in the water we've experienced. And then if I went right out the driveway, we would go into the woods, and we'd literally be gone, from 8 in the morning till somebody in the neighborhood would ring a bell, and we come back for dinner about 8 o'clock at night. And so we just had the life of Riley, experiencing every crazy thing you imagine a kid to do. So that was a lot of fun. The home situation was very different, though. A lot of violence, a lot of conflict, and in every dynamic of my life.
So that was, and then during that period of time, you left your home, and you actually lived in a treehouse while you were still.
Yeah, my mom hadn't seen me probably for weeks. After the divorce when I was 13, I pretty well disappeared and would come home, change clothes. And she caught me one Saturday, and I don't know if she was mad or whatever, but I thought I was escaping, and she gave me this second glance. And she goes, you look just like your father. I can't stand to look at him and I never want to see you again. And that's when I was 15. And so I chose wisely not to argue at that point and escalate everything. And I left and never went back. And so I'm pedaling my bike. I'm 15. Where do you go? What do you do? My brain just log jammed. I didn't know anything. And I found myself, as I was pedaling, looking at the pavement, I looked up and I was heading to the woods. I knew exactly I was going to go live in that big old tree way back in the woods. And that's what we did.
And you've got an incredible book. And I encourage any of the listeners that want to read your story and find out like your background, which you go into detail, awesome stories and things that you did as a kid.
Thankfully, it's not a tell-all.
And really how God has brought you from that life into where you're at now.
Yeah.
Successful businessman, you're married, you have, is it 5 children?
Yep. We got 5 kids between us, 10 grandkids. We're still waiting for one more to have some kids.
Oh, there we go.
No pressure. Oh, yeah, there is.
And so now you own your own business, the
Yes.
Willis Agency.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your business and what it is that you're doing.
It's kind of fascinating how I got into it. As my kids were 4, 6, and 8, and they were way too much energy level, we had to come up with something. And I was in the retail business selling clothes. And we made, parents make decisions sometimes that can be costly. And I told these 2 boys, you two, you're going to play football. Those little kids, the pads are bigger than they are, 8 and 6. And this little girl who thought she was a boy, she grew up in a boy's world. You're going to be a cheerleader whether you like it or not. And then I find out that I didn't have the $325 to pay for the registration. And I find out that the games were all on Saturday, and I work in a clothing store on Saturday. And I literally changed my career because of all those scenarios. And they were literally making more money. I mean, they were eating more money than I was making. And an ad that week popped up, and 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, can make all kinds of money. And I applied, and they gave me the job. And that's how I got into the insurance business. So I started my first 4 years with an insurance company in Zephyr Hills.
Okay.
And so the whole 30 years that I've been in business has been in Pasco, Hillsborough County.
Okay. So you were a local, born, raised, and bred right here.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you started this transition from working in a clothing store into the insurance was the catalyst for that was the fact that you wanted your children and you wanted to be there.
I want to be at the
them.
games, man. Yeah.
And then get into the insurance. So now you have your own company, the Willis Agency. How long has the Willis Agency been around?
So 94
Okay.
is when we made the break from the insurance agency that we were working
25
with.
years, 26 years.
Yeah. And it was it's nerve-wracking. I was on a salary and I went to 100% commission. Had no reserves. Had to hit a home run. And so you had to learn how to put priorities. I had to learn to. I didn't have to learn to sell. I had known that already, but just the whole different dynamics, and I just learned to trust God quick.
Wow. So you built the Willis Agency. Now you sell insurance, but you're what we would call an independent broker. You're independent. You don't work for one company. You have the ability to sort of shop around to different providers.
That's correct.
And so you truly can become an advocate for the investors that are purchasing your product, correct?
Absolutely.
So, and the reason I say investors, and a lot of people may not really understand why I would call insurance an investment, but it is an investment in something because they're putting money away for a future event or a future experience that they're going to be having.
Yes.
Now, most people think of investing as in, I'm going to invest in this X, Y, and Z. I'm going to get a better return, whatever return is in a few years. And then they start planning, okay, and when I get that return, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z or ABC. So no matter what it is, whether it's insurance, whether it's the stock market, whether it's real estate, whether it's a business, no matter what it is, people invest in something for the future, whatever that benefit is of that investment. So you specifically invest in insurance. Now that can cover a wide array of different home insurance, life insurance, car and auto, motorcycle, health. I mean, so the whole gamut, right? So help us hone in exactly what it is that you're focused on, why you're focused on that, and then maybe some questions that some of our investors can take with them when they're considering investing into your space, whether they reach out and contact you, which I would highly encourage them to, or whether they're wherever they're at and they want to reach out some questions that they can sort of help guide them through this process.
I start the conversation out with the phrase, strategies for successful retirement. So my main focus are people that are nearly retired or retired to successfully retire. A lot of people have a financial approach of getting you to retirement.
Mm-hmm.
I have the approach of getting you through retirement. So there's a lot of places where you might want to save money when you're 20, 30, 40, 50. And then what do I do with that bucket of money? How do I have it to last as long as I do? How I devise it up to where I have my money match my age is something that I talk about. So we're talking about people that are in retirement or just approaching it and trying to figure out what to do with the last third of their life. Life expectancy isn't like when I started when it might be 6-8 years. It's going to be 25, 30 years for a couple.
Yeah.
So we got a long range plan that we've got to come up with.
Interesting. So when an investor comes to you and they're in that, and your primary target is really somebody, like you said, that's at the end of their career, they're looking at retiring, or they're in the throes of beginning part of retirement. They're looking for, hey, how can I make my retirement last? Especially with medicine and the way healthy living and healthy lifestyles that are, really being pushed now. People are expected, I'm sure, to live a lot longer today than they were 50 years ago. And so your focus is getting somebody from that, hey, I'm entering the golden years. And then instead of 5 years later, like, oh my gosh, like I have so many years left to go and I don't know what I'm doing, to help them get through those golden years to truly make them enjoyable and to where they can enjoy everything. So walk me through, an investor comes to you or a retiree or somebody approaching that, or maybe even a family member of somebody who's in that stage. And they come to you and say, Mr. Willis, I'm interested in purchasing, investing in something. What is it? What exactly is the product that you're offering?
The actual product would be something called a fixed indexed annuity. Okay. It's a guaranteed product. Can't lose its principal. And it can grow if you want it to grow. We can have a guaranteed growth if that's what you're looking for. And then for retirement, a lot of people are doing pension replacements. They've saved this 401, 403, 457, and I'm using this as my pension. So there's going to be a time in the future, 2 years or 12 years, I'm going to need to kick on that income. And then we have a guaranteed income for life.
Okay.
Really revolutionized. It came out in 2006 and changed the whole face of retirement.
Okay. So explain to me and the listening audience, a guaranteed income for life. That sounds very attractive. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, wow, that's incredible. So how exactly does that work? How can you guarantee something? Because in the investment space, somebody says guarantee, that's a really like a big taboo word. You don't say that. So how is it that this can be guaranteed income for life?
So when I look at somebody's whole portfolio, not just a portion of it, when we're talking to them, we get an inventory of everything they have. We get a list of dreams and we get a list of needs. There is a difference between needs and dreams. I know some disagree, but there is. And so we're trying to balance out their estate, and there's a level that they can flow in. And I like to create a foundation. And that's what this guaranteed income for life is. Now, it depends. If you have a lot of money, you might not need as much in it. If you don't have much money, you may need more in it. But there's this number that you need monthly to know that you're going to meet all your needs, and then we work on your wants. And that's what this product's for. So the guaranteed income for life is putting some money aside, and it's in an insurance company, and those are safe products, and they have a contractual agreement with you. With this amount of money that you're giving us, if you wait 10 years, we're going to guarantee you to pay you out this amount no matter how long you live. Now, it's very different from the grandfather annuity. In the old ones, if you had died, all the money was gone. Okay. These new ones, if you only lasted 2 or 3 years of the income, well, your loved ones would get the balance. You could even start this income, have a windfall of money, win a lottery, don't need the income, and just let it accumulate and then start it again in 5 years. It's extremely versatile retirement vehicle.
So that's interesting. So you bring up something where if somebody, they started this and then they didn't need the income because a windfall comes along, right? So they said, well, you know what, I put this money aside. I'm supposed to be getting X amount every month from the insurance company, but I'm not going to accept that money. That then rolls back into their principal and it continues to grow.
Yeah.
And then sometime in the future, they can choose to say, okay, I'm going to turn it back on. And now will at the new year, let's say they waited an additional 7 years or 10 years or whatever that may be, is that guaranteed income now going to be based on the new principal, or was it based on the original amount that was?
So in most cases will be on the higher one. There's a calculation. I'm not a fan of technology by any way, shape, or form, but I do like the benefits of it. And so what they're able to do inside these fixed index annuities, they have these two running numbers. It's like one bucket of money, but it shows you what's happening with these two. One is the accumulated account and one is the income account. And the income account is guaranteed. Most of them are set up to ratchet up, like a tool. It only goes one way. Ratchet up somewhere between 6 and 8% a year, guarantee. Tremendous. And if you time and compound, that's going to be just 5 years. That's quite a bit of earning. Whereas the accumulated account is just going to be whatever our interest strategies do. We don't know. If the market goes south, we're going to earn a zero. We have a phrase we call zero is our hero. We didn't lose 15%. We got to keep everything. And then sometimes you might win 3 or 4%. You might get 6, 8%. Just depends on the accumulated value varies, but that income is a ratchet, goes up automatically.
And that has to be dictated by the investor themselves. They need to say, hey, listen, I want this money that I'm putting into this to be in my accumulated or the income account.
What was fascinating, it doesn't matter which one it's in, they're both, because of computers, they're both being calculated and shown on your annual statement.
Okay.
So if you're in the income rider, you're still accumulating money. Okay. If you stop the income rider, you're accumulating and your income rider is still ratcheting up.
Okay.
They're simultaneously working. So there's a fee. Okay. That's this thing that there's a fee. Most annuities don't have fees. But for this income rider, there is a fee. And that's what pays for all of these additional benefits. And, if you're going to retire and start getting an income at 66, because that's when your Social Security starts, and you're going to get a check for 20, that's 86. Like, how many people are living to 90? It's like almost 1 out of 5.
Yeah.
Are living to 90. You might be getting a 25, 30-year check. That's way outliving that bucket of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's fascinating is, even if it's a qualified account, an IRA of some sort, those guaranteed income for life payments are higher than your required minimum distribution. So your required minimum distribution, I have people, they're in their mid-80s, they're running out of money. If they had, which they didn't have them back then, the guaranteed income for life, they'd be still getting what they were getting. Wow. Yeah. And not run out of money. Completely life change for a little bit.
Interesting. So you and I were talking before the show about the word guaranteed and what is it that these products are, the end result is investing in. And if you can try to explain to us or to the listening audience, the money that they're investing into these insurance products, what is the insurance company doing that actually guarantees that they don't have a loss?
Well, I'm really glad you asked, because I can't bring it up unless you ask.
Okay.
And so the first thing is the consumer, you and I, purchase a product from the insurance company. We get a contract. It's called a policy. Nobody reads these things. It says, if you can't go to sleep, read a policy. It'll guarantee you to put you to sleep. I said that to one lady. She says, oh, it didn't. It gave me nightmares. All the legalese in there. But what it's basically saying is, you give us the money and we're going to guarantee that you're never going to lose it and get this minimum interest rate guarantee. That's a pretty solid guarantee. How that actually works is, say you do a $100,000 investment. You give ABC Insurance Company $100,000. They're going to take that $100,000 and invest in the same 20 places that everybody else does. AAA bonds, well over 90% of it's in AAA bonds.
Okay.
And then you got to give something for these guys to play with, and that's what makes the difference. So that's your $100,000. Okay, that goes out there through the insurance company, and that's how you're protected. Doesn't really matter what it does. You only going to reflect a positive gain or a zero. The insurance company now that takes $100,000 of their money and send it up to the state capital. The state capital has an escrow account. They have two accounts there. There's one for life and health and annuities. Annuities are sold by life insurance companies. And then there's another one for property and casualty. And for dollar, insurance companies required by law to do business in this state have to do that. Now, property and casualty insurance is a great example. We have these things called hurricanes.
What?
Yeah.
A hurricane?
It happens. Thankfully, not in our area. I mean, they keep telling us we're going to get wiped out. I'm a Floridian from here, and I've been here long enough to see some serious hurricanes. But we have been blessed and escaped. But the rest of the state and everywhere else in the world has got them frequently. And so hurricane can easily wipe out a lot of insurance companies, and they do.
Yeah.
But everybody still gets their car. Everybody still gets their roof. Everybody still gets their furnishings. They get their cash. They still get all that. And that's because the state guarantee fund is there dollar for dollar. If you were to call 1-800-FDIC, that's not a real number, and ask them how much is in the bank's FDIC for $100,000, they might give you a number like $17.50.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the government can make more money. The rest of us can't, but the insurance company does match it dollar for dollar.
So for every investor, when somebody goes and they purchase an annuity or they roll over a 401k or 403b or some type of pension plan with the current employer, and they say, hey, Jim, I want an annuity. I like the fixed income, the guaranteed income strategy. Let's do that. So they go and they purchase a product through one of your providers, and then they're going to purchase this annuity. Let's say it's $100,000. So they purchased the annuity for $100,000. The insurance company takes that $100,000 and they start to put it at work in the market. But they also are required by law to take $100,000 of their own money and then put it in this guaranteed fund at the state.
Yep.
Does anybody have access to that money at the state?
Nobody.
Not even the federal government of the state?
Nobody.
So Governor Ron DeSantis right now in 2019 could not get access to those funds if there was an emergency and all hell broke loose in Florida.
That's correct.
The federal government can't get access to that money.
Cannot.
Why? What is the protective measures that are in place to ensure it? Because, I mean, it's the federal government.
Well, I can say that the laws are in place to do those protections, and there's lots of skepticism, and I can't even explain all of it. But I do have a great example.
Yes, please.
All right. AIG. AIG is American General Insurance Company. They go by AIG. It doesn't match, but I've never figured that out. But, back in the 2000s, corporate America was falling apart. And of course, in the real estate world, the parent of the insurance company was also called AIG. And they had a bunch of these bundled mortgages. You might know about that very well. And it was just a bunch of numbers, and it was just horrible what they were doing, but they're being sold and resold at, quote, tremendous value, which there wasn't any. Well, it went broke, it went busted. But the political world at the time wanted to protect AIG Insurance Company. They said, we don't need it. Well, the government wanted to, and they were going to bail them out. And they had $330 billion cash in the guarantee fund. They didn't need any bailing out.
Wow.
Nevertheless, they went through this process, gave them all this money, and they never even deposited it. They literally gave the check back 90 days later. The company was A+, is A+, and probably always will be A+.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's
Interesting.
Phenomenal.
I would have to say that was definitely the wool was pulled over people's eyes on that one.
And I wonder if they were trying to get access to the funds, the $330 billion. That's my curiosity. Can people get into it? No, they can't. How come? I don't It's
the law.
That's above
That's
my
the
pay.
way-
That's
yeah.
above my pay grade. But evidently, those big guys couldn't get in either.
Interesting.
Even
Okay.
the president of the whole conglomerate couldn't get into those guaranteed funds. Board of directors, none of them. They wanted to get in it.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of money that's sitting there. So we're coming up on the end of our time, Jim. And for everybody who may just now be listening, this is Jim Willis from the Willis Agency. You are an independent broker, so you don't work for one company such as AIG. You're an independent broker, and you get to choose based on your conversation with an investor. Hey, this is what they're looking for. Well, these are some of the products that I know will meet and align with your needs.
Correct.
So let's say somebody's listening, and we have listeners from all over the U.S. and beyond in some cases. If somebody is interested in maybe reaching out to their local broker, number one, how would you find or identify an independent broker, someone like yourself? Is there a certain licensing, or is there something in your title or in your company to where they know just the fact that it's not a name brand?
Well, you'll know the captive agents. They work for such and such company. Whether it's, I can name all those companies. You know what they are. If you don't have a company like that, and it's Jim Willis Agency, they're an independent.
There you go. Okay. All right. And what are some of the questions that you would say, hey, listen, if you're going to go, whether you come talk to me, whether you're going to go somewhere else and talk with another independent broker, what are some questions that our listening audience, they can take with them and say, okay, this is something I need to be aware of when I'm considering looking at a product to purchase when it comes to annuity, and possibly looking at something that's a guaranteed growth or a guaranteed income strategy? What are some of those questions that they can arm themselves with to be able to better approach having this conversation with the broker?
Well, they want to know what they want to do with the money. Don't answer a question. My kids would answer my question the way I'd want to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you want? And so tell me honestly what you think you want and what you need, and I'll tell you if we can do it or not. Sometimes I go off, do some homework, and come back, same time, same channel. And yeah, we can do it, or we can almost do it. We got to tweak here or there. Are you willing to do that? And sometimes yes, sometimes no. And so we help you meet what you want to do. Sometimes it's just, numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
In other words, we help you do the best we can with what we got. And I live my life that way, and I do my finances that way.
There you go. There you go. What are the different products? Now you had mentioned, we were talking earlier, you said that there were 3 different annuity products. Could you go over those again real quick with us?
Yeah. I call them worlds, 3 annuity worlds. The grandfather, we're going to call the grandfather annuity, the one's been around for literally 150 years, 200, almost 200 years. And that's the immediate annuity. The immediate annuity is every pension plan in America. You get this money and you retire, and it creates a pension. The state pensions, the federal pensions, the corporate pension, they're all immediate annuities. And they all last for as long as you die, for as long as you live until you die.
Okay.
Now you and I now know you can get a 50% to your spouse, 25%. You have all those little choices but that's an immediate annuity. And the word before annuity always describes what's happening to the principal, never the interest. So immediate means principal's coming out immediately. Okay, that's the pension. And then there's the fixed annuity, and that's the world that I work in. That's the guaranteed. So that guarantee that we're talking about, that is all identifying in the fixed annuity. Now there's renewal interest rates, there's fixed interest rates. I call them like a CD interest rate, 5-year rate like you would get in a CD, except probably be a little bit higher. And then there's an index rate, and the index rate's tied to the interest entities out there, S&P 500, NASDAQ, Dow, and all those other ones. And they got very creative now because the computer, we can isolate some areas that can give us an enhanced increase. Those are used for income or safe accumulation. There's no risk, so there's no loss. Okay, so that means the principal's fixed, it's guaranteed. Then the third world up there is the variable annuity. That means your principal varies. It goes up and it goes down. It's a marriage, very interesting marriage of a mutual fund with an insurance company. It was originally designed to create tax deferral. Mutual funds don't have any true tax deferral. So putting it into an insurance company, I can defer my taxes like an IRA. And but it has that true literally every day, every hour, the entire account goes up and down like a mutual fund would do. And so
that could give somebody in retirement a little bit of anxiety.
It can. Well, it depends where you're at. There's three stages of money. I want accumulation, then there's preservation, and then there's distribution. And so when I developed my company, I was realizing everybody's focused on accumulation. Nobody's really talking about preserving some of the money. Because I learned, like all the bankers, insurance muckety mucks, and broker boo-hoo-ha's, we all learned how your money balance your age. So if you're 60, 60% should be safe. If you're 30, only 30%. If you're 75, 75% should be safe. So that's what I do. I'm helping people balance their money. So on the preserving and distribution, there are so many dangers in getting a distribution of an IRA. Whether through retirement or through a spouse or through death, the taxes there and penalties could be horrendous. And that's the quagmire that we specialize in.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we are coming up on the end of the show. Can you now in the show notes, we're going to put some of the places that people can find you. You've got a website, you've got Facebook. The website is www.thewillisagency.org or .com. You've got a Facebook, the Willis Agency, at the Willis Agency. Do you have any other social media or platform that people can reach out to you, or those are your two primary go-tos?
Those are the two primary.
Okay. All right. And if somebody wants to meet you here locally, maybe they're here in the Tampa Bay area, the greater Tampa Bay area, let's say includes Pinellas, the land of Pinellas out there.
Hey, that's home. Careful.
If somebody wants to meet up with you, then they can just reach out to you on one of those platforms and say, "Hey, Jim, let's talk. I heard you on the show. I'd like to talk a little bit more about what you can do as far as the annuities go."
Sure. The first appointment's free. It's a fact finder, and we actually check, see if you like me, and I check, see if I like you.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of things. So maybe it's life insurance, maybe it's long-term care. You talk about health costs, and I'm one of these unusual financial guys that's very heavy in the Medicare arena. So whether it's supplements or advantage plans, because that is critical for retirement years, you could spend a lot of money. So we want to make sure you're properly insured with those Medicare products.
Yeah.
Help people with that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about annuities, specifically fixed annuities, which is your specialty. And you've given the listeners some questions, some considerations to think about, and hopefully they will reach out to you if they are in need, not if, when they become in need of that guaranteed income and guaranteed guaranteeing that principal. That's very, very interesting. So, thank you so much for having coming on the show.
Thank you much.
Absolutely.
They can also call 813-948-9109.
There we go. All right. So you got a phone number too. I apologize. We will make sure that's in the show notes as well. Thank you again, Jim, so much for being on the show.
I appreciate it very much.
This is Edwin Epperson, host of The Sophisticated Investor. Join us next time.
Thank you.
And that wraps up our show for The Sophisticated Investor. Thank you so much for joining me and joining our guest today as we dove into the specific assets and the market that they invest in. Please join us again when we dive into more investing techniques and strategies in different assets within different markets so that we can help you, the listener, and our community member build, protect, and preserve your family's generational wealth. This is Edwin Epperson, your host of The Sophisticated Investor. God bless and have a great rest of your week.